Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. The post-split fixtures in the Premiership have been announced. Hearts owner Anne Budge says Cathro picks the team. And O'Halloran dropped from Rangers' weekend squad. Yeah, just a few of the talking points Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, will be discussing. It's Thursday. It's an unusual day to see our bookroom guest, Hugh MacDonald. But we're delighted that Hugh has joined us here because, of course, with the Easter weekend, Friday and Monday, there will be no Peter and Ruffy football show. But we will be here on Saturday at 2 o'clock. Gordon Smith back with us alongside Hugh and Ruffy for 4 hours, keeping you up to date with Scottish football. But tonight, we've got lots to talk about, guys. Of course, the post-split fixtures have been announced, and you just get the feeling that the way the whole thing's panning out, Ruffy, on the final day of the season, there are a number of interesting fixtures that could actually throw up whether somebody's going to be in the playoff or possibly relegation as well.
Yeah, it's good that the computers realised that, and put these games on for us, because I think we're not involved, obviously, in them, but the teams that will be involved in it will be a fantastic finish to the season. It's been great so far, but obviously not for the teams that are involved.
Yep, at the bottom end, Hugh, you've suddenly got Hamilton against Dundee. You've got Inverness Cally Thistle against Motherwell, which is where I believe those two final places will be settled, unless you're going to tell me different.
I think Inverness are in such a bad place at the moment that I think there's just one place up for grabs. I think it's the playoff place, but you're right, the playoff place will be up for grabs in these two matches. I think the interesting thing, is the way Dundee have come into it big time. I think, I thought Dundee would have the quality just to stay at least in that seventh. I mean, in fact, at the beginning of the season, I thought it might go into sixth, but they're the parachute team, aren't they? They're the ones that's coming down with, quickly. So yeah, really good fixtures. But that's what the split should be about.
Yep, and looking at it, Ross County lose out. They only get 18 home games, 20 away. You always get that little anomaly as we get these fixtures out. Partick Thistle, your old side, Ruffy, get 20 at home. And of course, the last day of the season, Celtic will play Hearts at Celtic Park. They will then receive the trophy.
Yeah, and it's a long celebration, Celtic, isn't it? We seem to have known about the destination of the title since, I think most reasonable observers have known about it since the first ball was kicked. But it's quite good that the Hearts thing is. I think Brendan Rodgers' most defining early performance was the performance at Tynecastle when Celtic won 2-1. I think that gave an indication of what he was like as a manager. Certainly gave an indication of what I think the player of the year, Scott Sinclair, would be like in Scotland. He came on as a sub, remember, and scored the winning goal. But to go back to the split thing, there's two things always happen in split. It happens every year. People start moaning about, it's not fair. Of course it's not fair. It cannot be fair. That's just the way it works out. And if you're going to have a split, another thing I always laugh about is people say, you're not televising these games. Then you see yourself, you're the same people that keep saying that there's not enough fans going to football.
Yeah.
I mean, the two things don't...
You can't have it both ways. Yeah, and Ruffy, over and above that, just talking about Celtic and Brendan Rodgers, he has been speaking today talking about the fact that he's going to use some of the fringe players, but not just for the sake of it.
No, he has to. I mean, there's obviously two big games with Rangers coming up and possibly a final as well. He'll want all his best players 100% fit. I don't think he'll tamper with that much. I mean, obviously, you get players like Roderick coming in. They are first-team players, so anybody that's coming in will be just below the first team.
Yeah, let's have a look at the papers from this morning, the back page headlines across all three tabloids that we've highlighted. The Scottish Daily Mail, first of all. There's obviously the reference to the Borussia Dortmund game going ahead. Mackay snub. This is the Rangers winger rejecting an offer of an extended 2-year deal. He's got 1 year left on it, and I would hazard a guess that might intensify the need to sell him in the summer. We'll discuss that. The Daily Record record focuses on Dave King. Obviously, he was forced to make an offer for the remaining shares at the club, but he hasn't done that, so it looks as if that's heading to court. Malky Mackay saying the men's sides may well have missed a trick with Shelley Kerr, who's now confirmed as the Scotland Women's International manager. And the Sun has that harrowing story of Andy Little, who was concussed and had damage to his eye socket. And Dave Mackay just offering his thoughts on that. And Willie Collum confirmed as the Old Firm Cup semi-final ref for the match as well. The Dave King one is interesting because obviously we're aware that he had to try and come up with a deadline, a 20 pence offer in the shares to buy them up at about 11 to 14 million was the point on it. He hasn't done it. He's let that deadline pass, and now it looks as if it's going to court. Yeah,
it looks as if it's going to go to the Court of Session for Dave King to, for the takeover panel to enforce it. I think it's a story where if you hear from the Rangers briefing on the side, it's like, oh, nothing to see here, everything will be fine. If you look at other people and talk to people in the city, they think the cold shoulder thing is a hugely important thing, because not only does it affect Dave King, but people who have any dealings with him, whether it be in shares, directorships, or even banking, they can be affected, so they'll be told to look, literally cold shoulder Dave King. So this is another big Rangers story, and it could be a really important one.
Yeah, and it's just dragging on as well. And as far as the club's concerned, in a playing sense, Pedro Caixinha was speaking today, and the obvious one was about Michael O'Halloran's no-show at an under-20 match. And this is what the Rangers manager had to say about the Rangers winger.
Michael is from our family. Normally when I have a problem with my family, I solve it at home. That means should call it like internal affairs. What happens home, stay at home. You keep insisting. We have the entire afternoon. We can go. But you're not going to have an answer regarding to that. I think I was really clear from the beginning. What happens at home, stays at home, and is solved at home.
I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to work it out. He's dropped from the squad for the weekend game against Partick Thistle. He's very rarely played. I think his days are numbered at Ibrox.
Yeah, it will be. If he's got no reasonable excuse of why he never turned up to that game, then yes, he will be out the door, because he's a new manager in. The manager's got to force himself on the rest of the players. We saw it with Warburton when he never acted quickly with Barton. We started getting Hazzy got in the dressing room. So this is his first thing that he's got to deal with, and I think he will deal with it quickly, and he will be out the door.
It's also the first time we've had the chance to get the thoughts of Pedro Caixinha on his choice as the number 3 at Ibrox, and this is what he had to say about Jonathan Johansson.
First of all, he's a Rangers man. He knows the Scottish football, and he was the one that it was easy to link with our way of see the training, the game, our preparation, our methodology. So he was the chosen one. He can add something that you cannot identify only in 4 or 5 matches. So he knows the players. So that's one point that he's doing it regarding to that situation to help us to know the Scottish football. So what is besides or behind, when you analyze one team, the group of players that normally you cannot watch in those moments because they are not playing, but he knows those players.
Jonathan Johansson maybe came out of left field. He was a late runner. Not many people had been mentioning him early on.
Yeah, and an interesting choice, because the other unanswered question, which he wouldn't, Pedro Caixinha wouldn't have answered, putting the O'Halloran boxes. Why did you turn down the other 2? That's what the Rangers fans will be quite interested in. What did he not, what did he not see in Barry Ferguson, or what did he see in Barry Ferguson that he didn't want? And that's interesting.
Do you really think so, Hugh?
Yeah.
I mean, is it not more a case of a manager thinks, right, this guy's got all the credentials, let's focus on the positives, or are we just obsessed by the negativity?
Well, I think people would have been looking. I think there was a groundswell from social media that like somebody like Barry Ferguson was in, was going his favourite. He wasn't a favourite to me. And I would stand by, of course, any manager making any appointment they want. But I'd be just interested to know why he didn't get it.
Yeah, just briefly before we go to the break, Ian Maxwell, obviously Celtic Rangers are playing Partick Thistle. The general view is Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers might be the red hot favourite for the manager of the year. But Ian Maxwell, the managing director, says pound for pound, Alan Archibald should be manager of the year. Would you?
No, I would still go with Brendan Rodgers, but my admiration for Alan Archibald is unbounded. I know the guy. I've watched Thistle regularly this season. Even though the results have improved incredibly, they've always been playing well.
Okay. Coming up after the break, we will look at Kilmarnock against Hearts. We will discuss Anne Budge, and we will also look at the Champions League results from last night as well. But here's a wee question for you. Fantastic final. Paul Lambert man-marking Zinedine Zidane in that final, which eventually Borussia Dortmund won by 3-1, Ruffy.
Yeah, it's a memory for the rest of your life to play in that game and to have the medal. Is amazing. Anytime we get Paul in, it's the first thing he talks about, and quite rightly so. A fantastic occasion. Yeah,
absolutely. Of course, Borussia Dortmund in the news for all the wrong reasons this time, Ruffy. Again, we're still waiting on details to emerge about the perpetrator of the crime and, of course, the bombs. One of them shattered the glass. Mark Bartra is a Borussia Dortmund player who was injured in it, and they had to cancel the game last night against Monaco. I mean, that's a worrying issue that all major games face in security. But over and above that, I think UEFA were right to reschedule the match, but it just shows you the spirit of fans. Some of the social media, I think, was tremendous, with supporters of Borussia Dortmund just saying to any Monaco fan, if you cannot find anywhere to stay, they'll put you up in their houses. I just think that's absolutely fantastic. Great pictures of Monaco fans staying in German houses up and down the city. I mean, that's the spirit of football.
Yeah, and the Champions League just brings all that out, and it's tremendous. And I mean, what more can you say? It's just so friendly, and I think UEFA and FIFA keep preaching that to everybody. It's a friendly cup, and respect and all that. It goes with it, and they've just taken that a level higher.
Yeah. Have you been in the Westfalen Stadium before?
No, I haven't.
You should get it on your bucket list. It's up there. When you think of the great atmosphere of Tynecastle, it's there. What is a stadium that you've enjoyed, that you've been at, Stephen?
Obviously the big two you play at, Celtic Rangers, but I think from noise levels, the opening day last year against Rangers at the Championship, and I think it was the first season Championship, that was just a surreal occasion. Just the amount of fans there, and you couldn't really hear yourself think. So that was one of the ones that kind of blew me away. It just kind of opened my eyes to see it, to show that that's the kind of level I want to be at, playing at like stadiums like that throughout your career. And yeah, it was a real eye-opener.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that special goal of yours from a couple of seasons back as well, not because you've told me to, but just because I thought it was worthy of a mention. We're on the Champions League mode here, Ruffy. Juventus. Again, I wouldn't like to tempt fate with it, but I don't see Barcelona. I don't see Barcelona scoring 4 goals against them. I don't know about you after last night's drubbing.
Well, it depends what officials of Barcelona have asked for.
The
last round was scandalous, particularly with Suarez. But no, I wouldn't put anything by. I mean, we were in the stadium with Celtic, and once they go on a run, they're unstoppable. But if there's a team you don't want to, have to 4 goals against, it'd be Juventus. Italians are notorious for spoiling tactics and seeing out games quite comfortably, so they've got a 3-goal advantage. So I think it'll be good. It'll be great to watch. I mean, if Barcelona get a goal early on.
Can we get a wee side bet on? Do you want to have one? Because obviously the reason why he's in a bad mood is because he tipped PSG to win the Champions League. I was texting him just as soon as the 7th one went in.
Well, if I go for that again, I mean, I know Dembele's sitting on 32, so I could be on a double whammy here.
Yeah,
so
you could get.
I'm I'm going to wait for Dembele before I get into deep trouble.
Yeah, okay. Dembele's still got a few games to go, but I've got him on 32 and tipped him to score 40. Stephen, give us your thoughts. Is my bet looking good or is it shaky?
I'd say it's looking good. Still a few games left, and there's just the run of form he's been on. It's been unreal. But I'd say maybe going past that. If Celtic starts scoring a few goals, then there's no stopping them.
Yeah, there's a couple other things that have been dominating some of the headlines today as well. It never stops with people being linked with Dembele. Arsenal, the latest with him and Tierney. There's absolutely no doubt, Ruffy, that scouts are watching these players non-stop at the moment.
Yeah, they are. And the Dembele one in particular. Everybody keeps saying, why would you go to a club if you're not going to get a regular game? But he will believe that he's good enough to go into a big club and score goals. He just needs to get the chance. But the young boy Tierney, I'm sure there'll be lots of clubs would love a young player like that they can, get at a reasonable price. And we've saw the boy Robertson at Hull, how much he's come on. And I think Tierney will be heading in the same direction.
Yeah, who would get your vote, Stephen, in the Premiership if you cast it for Player of the Year?
That was a hard one. I was actually talking to Stephen McGinn about that yesterday. I think it would have to be a Celtic player, and his vote was Scott Sinclair, but mine was Stuart Armstrong. Just the way he's kicked on, the way Brendan Rodgers has kind of brought out him, and obviously getting his first Scotland cap as well. So I think my vote would be Stuart Armstrong, yeah. Yeah,
I've got to ask you about this, Ruffy, which is a story that we highlighted there in the newspapers. Michael O'Halloran, I get the feeling that his days might be numbered at Rangers now because he hasn't been getting a regular game. He failed to show up for a game. Whether there's a reasonable excuse, we don't know. But I think he'll be looking to pastures new in the summer anyway, out of Rangers.
Yeah, you've touched on it there. We don't know the reason. We haven't seen a reason. If it is the case that he's saying to himself, well, I'm not going to go and play for the under-20s, then he will be out the door. The bigger players than him have had to go in and go through that scenario. But it might be another reason. We don't really know. But again, he's not done himself any favours by not turning up, because the manager at this moment in time will be actually looking at players and actively know which ones he's going to keep a hold of and which ones he's going to let go.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Stephen, if you've ever been involved in a game where you were potentially fighting with your teammates, but I'm sure that goes on in training and everything anyway. But I'm glad that Danny Swanson and Richard Foster are back in the fold and available for this weekend for St Johnstone against Aberdeen.
Yeah, that's what footballers are like. The spur of the moment thing. Things happen, people say things, reaction. We've saw what like managers are. When the pressure's on, and I'm glad, and St Johnstone is a club that would have got them together. They've acted very sharply and punished them, and I'm sure the two players will be glad that it's not dragged on, that they can now focus on the games coming up.
Yeah, just when I mentioned that, was there a player sticking in your mind, Stephen, that you thought, I can remember having a set two with?
To be fair, that's not the type of player I am. I've never really done that, but my dad
You never know what's going to get thrown about at their training.
You're a bad man, Alan Duff, you're a bad man. Okay, from that story to another one, which is congratulations to Shelley Kerr. She was unveiled today as the Scotland Women's International coach. Of course, she'll start after the European Championships. Anna Signol will say farewell. And as you can imagine, for a home girl, well pleased and honoured to be the Scotland manager.
It's an absolute honour. It's a privilege. I'm extremely proud. As you can imagine, as a young kid growing up playing football, and especially as a young girl, I had dreams to represent my country, and I was really fortunate to do that. But to actually get the opportunity to lead the women's national team, it's a dream come true for me.
Yep, good appointment. She's got a good CV, Ruffy.
Yeah, she certainly has, and it is a great appointment. I mean, the women's football's on the up. Obviously they've got a fantastic occasion coming up at the Euros. I'm sure she'll go along and grab the experience from that, and I'm sure the players will grab the experience as well, and it's a super appointment.
Yep, and no surprise, she's got a tough job in her hands trying to get us to a World Cup. Where have we heard that before? But of course, she did reveal her plans today.
I think in terms of football, it's competition. You need competition. You need competition for places in the team. That in turn makes the game stronger. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, it's the expectations as well. We've already reached a final, so to sustain that and then go on better in terms of the World Cup, obviously that's a different format. It's only one team that get out of the group stages, so it's much harder. So then you're maybe perhaps looking at the playoffs, but to absolutely sustain the success that we've had recently, that's a priority.
Yep, we wish Shelley Kerr the very best of luck here on the Football Show. A couple of things to finish with. Ruffy, what about Derek Lyle? He's going to get a testimonial played against a Rangers Legends team. I couldn't think of a more worthy recipient of that at Queen of the South.
Yeah, I think we'd be talking about it the other day. There's not enough players stay at the one club now, and Derek certainly has that. He's been at a lot of clubs, but this particular club, he's been there a while, and he deserves it. And I really hope that the supporters turn out. There's so many times it happens, you know, and it's a poor attendance, but I hope he gets a good turn.
Yeah, well done to David Hopkin as well. He's the League One Manager of the Month. And here is a photograph, Ruffy. I just wonder what was going on here. Can you tell us what was happening in this photograph? What about the jumper? I mean, it's just an absolute shocker.
Yeah, it was just a modelling job. You know, that,
what, for you or for the lady in question?
No, just
yeah, on that note, no, don't even explain it. Don't explain it. We're away. On that note, for legal reasons, thanks to Stevie Mallon. Good night.